The good news on the giant container ship that has brought trade from the Suez Canal to a standstill over the last week. Engineers say that tugboats have been able to dislodge the Evergreen's bow. Despite that progress, though, the situation is far from over, experts contend. Captain Andrew Kinsey is a senior marine risk manager at Allianz, and he joins us now. Captain Kinsey, good to see you this morning here. How could this situation, it's good to see progress here, good to see the ship, the bow dislodged, good stuff. But how could this be avoided?
Hello, Brian. Thank you for having me. Well, first, when we look at prevention, we have to understand what the cause was. And the key to this is getting the data off the vessel. These modern merchant vessels carry a voyage data recorder, the VDR. And a download of the VDR will be critical so that we understand what led up, the error chain that led up to this serious marine casualty, and what we can do in the future to prevent a reoccurrence.
Well, in terms of preventing a reoccurrence, there are a lot of these really big ships out there right now. Is that a good thing? Do we need to see a sort of a reshrinking or resizing of container ships? Does there need to be any kind of a constraint on the number of ships that are on the seas at any given time?
Julie, not are there very large ships currently on the seas, but there are even larger ships, larger container vessels on the books being built. And this brings up a key concern of ours at Allianz that we talk to our assureds about, is that economy of scale for shipping lines is not necessarily the economy of scale and a benefit for the entire supply chain. So what we have to look at is, can the infrastructure, in this case the Suez Cut, support these ever larger vessels? And it's not the length. You hear a lot about the length. It is the beam on these. I was in command of a 300-meter vessel, but it was significantly narrower. These are close to 200 foot wide, and that gets into the hydrodynamics at play.
And so these ships that you're talking about, can you give us any idea of how many are coming online? When are they going to be coming online? And are they going to be trying to go through places like the Suez? So it seems then likely that we would see more occurrences like this.
First off, yes, they will be transiting the Suez. Second, they are currently in contract now, and steel is being cut. So you're looking at a build contract for 18 months or so, but that can be expedited if conditions warrant. So what is critical is that, as I said earlier, that the VDR is studied so we understand what was the root cause of this incident so that we can prevent it in the further. And key to this is really gets to a root point on how we train mariners. We're collecting so much data, this metadata. We have to start using it more efficiently, quicker, so that we can adapt quicker. Because an unfortunate occurrence with these ultra-large container vessels is that they were built, and then it was the onus of the ports and the supporting infrastructure to adapt in order to get the ships to call. And that's something that has to be looked at overall, I believe, from an IMO level.
What changes would you recommend to just trying to improve the training procedures of the captains driving these ships? Because to your point, they're only likely to get bigger.
The training of seafarers continues to be world class. I mean, if you look at what the container volume has done in the last decade, exponential growth, and that yet you look at a large majority of the incidents, while attributed to what they concern is human error, it really is a remarkable job seafarers are doing. But we have to look at what conditions they are exposed to. It was just less than 4 months ago when we were looking at a condition globally with seafarers being stranded on ships with COVID, being over a year and extending their contracts. So fatigue and stress is definitely a key factor we have to address.
Now, you come at this, of course, from an insurance perspective as well, working at Allianz. What are the rates like for these ships? And the bigger they get, do the rates get higher? At some point, do the rates get high enough that becomes something that would be a discouraging mechanism to build them ever bigger?
Well, that's going to be based on capacity. And at present, rates have been hardening. We don't see anything short term on that. We continue to see a hardening market. It's not only the vessel insurance, though, it's also the cargo insurance for the cargo that's on board. So there are a lot of stakeholders in this. And then when we talk to our assureds that have business interruption interest, you can see that it gets to be a very complicated situation.
Captain, the Suez itself, from a structural standpoint, is it set up for the future of trade?
It depends on what the future of this trade looks like. My concern right now on the short term is that we're looking at getting this vessel freed, and they're making fantastic progress. The efforts are to be applauded. But the initial reaction is that we are now going to push more ships through a day to make up for the backlog. So once again, we're taking an already strained asset, and as soon as it's cleared, we're going to stress it even more by increasing the amount of vessels to transit. And this is where market pressures can override or circumvent at times sound navigation policy. So we have to look at escorts. Speed is a critical factor on this. We have to make sure that the vessels are not going too fast, and that if the windage is such that environmental conditions warrant, we delay transit.
All right, Captain Andrew Kinsey, Senior Marine Risk Manager at Allianz. Good to see you this morning. Appreciate the insights.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.